So, welcome to my film end of year report. I'm Andrew Wright. This isn't a White Regis TV attached production. This is just me putting out an end of year report. Thought I'd do a nice little New Year's special. It's been a right roller coaster of a year, not just on screen but off screen as well. This was the year I watched the worst film I've ever seen. Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. Unfortunately, that was a 2024 release, so that can't go in this video. Full disclosure, there are a couple of movies I still haven't seen as I'm recording this, mainly just because couldn't see them in cinema. Have to wait till they come out on Blu-ray, which won't be for a couple months. The last stuff to see what usually ends up coming out about April time. So, you'll have to go to my Letterboxd, is AJW7310, to find my full up-to-date list. I just realised I wrote in my script that there are a few releases I haven't seen that I really want to, like Now You See Me 3. So this is just these lists will be spit. These lists will be based on what I have seen by December 31st. So let's start off by going through the 10 worst films of the year. Bad news before good news. At number 10 is The Old Guard 2. Now, this is a film I wanted to like, because the first film, was enjoyable enough. It was satisfying popcorn entertainment, to keep the people happy during the pandemic. Unfortunately, what let this film down was that, frankly, spending 2 years shelved at Netflix didn't help it, because it tries to go deeper into the mythology of the story, but it can't give the audience anything new or even more of the same. It's just making an audience wait 5 years for a film that, frankly, no one remembered. For a sequel, giving them a sequel, at least two of those. No one remembers from the pandemic. At least two of the 5 years we were waiting, were spent with the film gathering dust on a hard drive. And frankly, I don't think anyone cared about a sequel, or even knew that one was happening. And then not even making it satisfying entertainment is what dooms this film. Number 9 is Death of a Unicorn. Now, I thought this was going to be great with Paul Rudd. I like Paul Rudd, and he's quite funny in he's quite good in the Ant-Man films, which is primarily where I know him from. And General Ortega in an indie creature feature horror film. But 5 minutes into the film, you're in for a snooze-inducing film. With a bad script and bad performances, it's just a complete letdown. Frankly, it was 9 o'clock at night when I watched it, on my phone, and frankly, I was about to doze off 5 minutes into the film. But no, I stuck it out and I had to stick it out and review it. Number 8 is Tron Ares. Now, this is another film I desperately wanted to like, because it has more than I actually did, because it has very interesting and very topical ideas. Before Tron Ares, I watched the original Tron film, hadn't seen any of the Tron films before, watched the original Tron, didn't like it, watched Tron Legacy, I like that one. It's kind of like the Da Vinci Code trilogy, this Tron's thing is, where I didn't like the first film, liked the second film, didn't like the third film. And surprisingly, Jared Leto's wooden acting is the least worst thing about the film. What really sunk the film is the fact the soundtrack legitimately actually gave me a headache. The sound mixing is bad. There are some very shoddy visual effects. I thought, and for some reason, Jeff Bridges, he's looks like he's filmed separately from the actors he has scenes with. Like, he has scenes with Jared Leto. They don't even look like they were in the same room together or they ever met. Most of all, the film comes across like it was made by a Tron fan, namely Jared Leto, who put this film together as a checklist of things they wanted to check off of a fan bucket list. I'm hoping the soundtrack issues and sound mixing will be fixed when I watch it on Blu-ray in January. Ugh, just realised I have to watch it on Blu-ray in January. I mean, I don't have to, but probably going to. At number 7 is Jurassic World Rebirth. Oh, I can't believe this let me down so badly. As I actually really liked the Jurassic World trilogy. I knew about the mixed critical reception to this, to Rebirth, but I was like, so what? I thought if anyone was going to enjoy this film, it would be me, because I just like, popcorn entertainment films. That's just who I am. That's just what films I like. Unfortunately, what this film is essentially 70 minutes of deleted or extended scenes on top of, I say, the film's story, but there's not really much of a story going on. It's just unnecessary plot threads and sequences that make you wish you were watching other films. Like, I said this in my review on my White Regis TV segment. There was an extended sequence on a boat, and I was like I included some action scenes with one of the aquatic dinosaurs in the water. I was like, I wish I was watching Jaws. Number 6 is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I had rewatched Dead Reckoning fairly close to when I watched Final Reckoning, like within a week or something, and I did find Dead Reckoning to be either more boring than I remembered, and certainly more boring than when I reviewed it. But I was hoping Final Reckoning would turn it around and end the series on a high note, especially as I heard that, the film itself picks, especially after, what I heard about the film. Unfortunately, it's just every single aspect of the film is terrible, from the writing and directing down to the editing, and that actually made me feel really guilty saying the editing was bad, because at uni I met the editor who did a Q&A at my uni, so that actually kind of made me feel a bit bad. But ultimately, the film is a structural mess that's half an hour too long. Like, it's nearly 3 hours. Like, no film needs to be 3 hours long. Pardon me. At number 5 is Chainsaw Man the movie Reze Arc. Okay, so I know I was never going to like this film, because I'm not a Chainsaw Man fan. Like, it's essentially got the same problem that I have with The Boys, is that, just after a while you find all the shock value stuff to be just... You're just very bored of it. But Reze Arc, the film is an absolute narrative mess. And it's got... I thought it had some disappointing animation. At number 4 is Wolfman, the reboot from January, I believe. Ooh, that was a long time ago. Now, I was looking forward to this film because it had all the ingredients it needed to be a fun flick. Pardon me. So it had all the ingredients it needed to be a fun flick. Lee Whannell, Blumhouse, and a Universal monster from their catalogue of Universal monsters. Unfortunately, the film is all kinds of broken. The cast have the charisma of a dead toilet fish. The script is sleep-inducing, and the body horror is frankly gross and unnecessary. Like, I guess it's a horror film about a guy turning into a werewolf, but does that mean you need to take the body horror route? I know I'm not a body horror fan, but I just... At number 3 is Predator, Killer of Killers. Now, I know I'm usually dismissive of animated installments of live-action franchises, because it's just sort of like... Because it just feels like a cheap alternative to actually making a new live-action installment. Although, I have to admit, I do love anime and I do love Pixar. But by the time Killer of Killers becomes interesting, the film is utterly unsalvageable. It doesn't take the time it needs to breathe. It's something like, 70 minutes long? Something like that? And it rushes through 4 different storylines and groups of characters. It's an anthology film. It's like 70 minutes long. It just rushes through all these different storylines and characters. And there isn't even a satisfactory or complete story arc. At number 2 is Star Trek Section 31. This film is essentially an extended TV pilot that takes an already bad storyline from Star Trek Discovery and overstuffs it with bad dialogue, badly written characters, to the point where you don't really care, and it is pretty forgettable. I think I watched it back to back with Moana 2. I was like, I liked Moana 2 a lot more than I liked that. And sitting at number 1 worst film of the year is a Minecraft movie. Now, I wanted to root for this film despite the odds and despite the fact that Minecraft is an unadaptable property. Like, it's no story. It's literally just you're building stuff. That's it. You can't adapt that. Unfortunately, it doesn't even reach the criteria of so bad it's good. The film is... Keep spitting. Don't know where that went. But the film is so straight up trash. It feels like an April Fool's joke that someone spent $200 million on that we now have to live with for eternity. The script is pure verbal diarrhea, and I get accused of spouting verbal diarrhea. The cast are buffoonish, and the visuals fail to engage with any decent Minecraft fan. The film won't do anything to appeal to Minecraft fans, and I'm a Minecraft fan, and the film didn't appeal to me. It didn't appeal to the fan in me, and I honestly thought at the time I reviewed it, I thought that everyone involved should be thoroughly ashamed of themselves. Oh, there it is. Now that we've gone out of the way, the worst films of the year. Let's go to the dessert. Now we've got the vegetables out of the way, let's get to the dessert and talk about the top 10 films of 2025. And number 10 is The Long Walk. Now, people might not know it's a Stephen King book. He published it under an alias, like he did with The Running Man. And Stephen King's had many great instant classics, like It and The Shining. I really like The Shining, both the book and the film. But you don't expect that one of this year's best films comes from a story that people probably not even heard about or even know come from Stephen King. What's great about the film is that it's in the mix of a bleak dystopia. It's a tale about finding strong friendship in like a harrowing event. Because it really comes to the forefront. Because the film is held together by the bonds between these young men, and you really buy into their bond. You invest in the characters, and you're like, oh, you want them to, to win the long walk. You want them to defy the system. At number 9 is My Mom. I'll say it in an American accent because it's the only way I can say the proper title. Excuse me. My Mom Jane. Now, this is certainly the most personal documentary I have ever seen because it's about Jane, the actress Jane Mansfield, and is directed by her famous daughter Mariska Hargitay. And I have to say, I found it to be a deeply compelling portrayal of a family fractured and deeply rooted in the tragedy in its past. Like this, it's something that's defined their family for decades, and it's also about a daughter trying to connect with the mother she never knew. At number 8 is Elio, last year's. I think it was the only Pixar film last year. Don't quote me on that. Stories about interpersonal relationships have always been Pixar's strength, like Ratatouille, Up, WALL-E, Inside Out, Coco. I could go on. And with this film, they crafted a very moving film about the love of family and the search for identity and belonging, and it's all wrapped up in quite a visual feast for the eyes. Like, if you love animation, you'll love the film, but you'll also be moved by the film. At number 7 is Karate Kid Legends. Now, this film I was really surprised that I liked, because I had only seen the original Karate Kid film. I hadn't seen any of the others. I hadn't seen Cobra Kai. But I didn't like the original Karate Kid film. But this film, Legends, is well acted, has great choreography, and it's actually, it's only about 90 odd minutes, but it is really quite charming. Like, I was grinning the whole time. I was, turned off my Blu-ray player. I was, skipping around, having a big grin. So, yeah. At number 6 is Detective Conan: One-Eyed Flashback. It's the 29th film in the Detective Conan franchise. So, and there's a new film every year, whilst the TV anime runs year round and has tie-ins to the films. And yeah, so I'm a Detective Conan fan. I love watching the anime. And like the films, they've made some very good films. Like, I think one of my favourites is Phantom of Baker Street. Last year, I was really looking forward to last year's installment, $1 Million Pentagram. I had mixed expectations, but it let me down. But $1 Million Pentagram let me down. Like, it had all the ingredients it needed for success, and it was just dull and just a misfire. And so I had mixed expectations for this year's installment, But to my great surprise, this turned out to be one of the best entries in the franchise, because it's everything you love about the Conan films, like action, romance, character exploration, national security implications, and massive epic set pieces. I just love the scene where in the film where, even though Conan, he's technically a 17-year-old, but he's in a 7-year-old's body, and I just love the part where the Japanese secret police force essentially acknowledges that he's vital for national security. That was hilarious. At number 5 is the Japanese film Bullet Train Explosion. Now, before I saw this film, I had no idea it was a sequel to a 1975 film. So I went in completely in the dark. And I did make sure to watch the 1975 film earlier this year, after I'd seen Explosion. But what makes Explosion work is that you don't need to see the original, as everything you need to know about it is told and shown to you in Explosion. But the film is also really tense, with great directing and wonderfully acted. Like, I showed it to some people who don't like Japanese stuff, and even they liked it. At number 4 is F1. Now, I'm a big Formula One fan. Like, as much as I can, time zone permitting, I watch all the races. And this movie ticked all the right boxes. It might be slightly factually inaccurate, but at its core, it is a film that loves and respects the world of Formula One and the dynamic as teammates between Brad Pitt and Damson Idris is absolutely believable and realistic. And this was actually, I would have said at the start of the year that this would be one of my top 3 movies. And that tells you about this year if it came in at number 4. But then again, I also thought Superman would be in my top 3, and that doesn't even crack my top 20 because I didn't particularly like it. At number 3 is The Fantastic Four: First Steps. The film is elevated by the chemistry the cast have with stand-up performances from Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby. I also found that the film is elevated because it is confident that the audience knows these characters and the world that these characters live in, so it just keeps the story moving forward. Yeah, I also said at the beginning of the year this would be in my top 3, and it is. Just at number 2 is House of Dynamite, the new Catherine Bigelow film. Now, I nearly didn't watch this film, but because it's not typically something that appeals to me. But I'm really glad that I did, because it was such an unexpected watch. The entirety of the film is like an anxiety attack, but in a good way, and it's a really sobering experience, bolstered by the respective main elements of the production, like writing, directing, and acting being at the top of their game. But literally, like, I was watching the film, I was constantly having an anxiety attack, and when I had to pause to go to the toilet or answer the door, that was only when I was I was able to relax and breathe. And then when I got back and started playing the movie again, it was like I was immediately back in that anxiety space. Oh. And sitting at number 1 best film of the year is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Now, this was another film I nearly didn't watch. And I was certainly not expecting to love this film as much as I did, especially as it too was House of Dynamite was a last-minute addition to my watch list. This film has great performances. Mia Goth, Oscar Isaac, Jacob Elordi, David Bradley. Wasn't expecting David Bradley to be not only to be in the film, but to be as great as he was. And the film has disturbingly beautiful visuals. What really won me over about this film is that it could have easily been a 90-minute monster movie. It could have just been that. But instead, it ended up being an incredibly complex film with great thematic depth about humanity, godhood, life, death, family, and monsters. And it's the second film I've ever thought of as art, after Gladiator, because I loved Gladiator. And I thought of that as art. And now this is the second time I've thought of the film as art. But this is the first time I've found such a profound thematic depth in a film and really been sort of moved by how profound the themes of the film were. It was just really incredible. And I wasn't expecting it. So that wraps up my top 10 worst and best films of the year. Have a happy new year. I'll see you guys next year for more film reviews. And you'll see me next on White Regis TV this Saturday talking about films to watch out for in 2026. See you next time.